please welcome on the stage Christoph Räthke. Founder of Berlin Startup Academy. Startup founder, author, speaker, mentor, what else?
Investor.
Investor?
Yeah.
Also?
Also, a teacher to students. But here, today, I'm really about something that I think has not yet gotten enough of the limelight. Today, it's all going to be about how everyone in Germany should get involved in startups, and if not as a founder, then maybe as an investor. So in other words, I want your money. Maybe not now, maybe in the future, maybe in a couple of years, but this is all going to be about how angel investment is something that is extremely necessary, extremely desirable, but as of now, underdeveloped in Germany.
Do you want to share with us why it is so important?
There's various angles to look at it, yeah? Like, I mean, the most obvious angle is, if you look at Silicon Valley, how the first great unicorn started, how the most important and successful accelerator program of all times, Y Combinator, started, it was all a group of individuals, no state, no government involved, no corporate funds involved. It was just a group of people who thought that they could create better opportunities and become rich along the way. While here in Germany, that's one of the topics that we're going to talk about. I think all of us are way too much looking at the other guy when it comes to supporting startups. Yeah? Like, we have state funds aplenty, we have universities, we have so many organizations investing, we have large corporations, but I say it's very much down to individuals to get engaged with their money, with their expertise. So, quintessentially, what we need in Germany is a proper angel revolution. And this angel revolution we're going to kick off right here, right tonight, for the first time ever. This is the moment. Yes, with a little bit of luck, in a year from now, Germany is going to be a different country, a country that's all about business angels. And if that's not worth the time, I don't know what is.
I don't know either. So let's kick it off. Have fun with Christoph Räthke and his gang.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Hello and good evening. Thank you. Yeah, don't start clapping too early because this might turn out to be shit. Yeah, so wait, then decide if this was any good. To start this off with, I just pulled out two numbers, two bit random numbers that I found on the internet. We have 2018, according to the numbers that I found, we had 1.365 million Vermögensmillionäre, meaning people who had assets, houses, money, cars worth 1 million euros or more. As opposed to that, in 2014, we had around 7,500 angels, people who take this money and their wealth and engage with startups, fund startups, work with founders. So even if we can basically assume that until now there's more angels, probably also a few more millionaires, the number that we're talking about is that 1% or barely 1% of people in Germany who have more than 1 million, who are high net worth individuals, engage with the German startup scene as supporters, as investors, as angels. And that is too little. That is too little. And as I was just saying, I think part of that is because being an investor, personally, is something that is still a miracle to many. Yeah, that's something for people who are way, way beyond your own status, that's way beyond what is in your means. What I'm here to tell you, with the help of my friends, that it's not. And even more than that, that this whole digitalization and startup thing in Germany can only work if many, many more people in Germany take startups and investment personally, instead of just looking at banks, venture capitalists, or, as we all tend to do, the government, which is always the culprit when something's not working. No, it's down to us. And to get that across, I've invited two typical business angels with me, with whom I'm going to, maybe give you a few things, a bit food for thought. One is someone who has just started being an angel, getting engaged with startups. The other guy is someone who has been doing it for 10 years, who has tons of experience. And I'm promising you now, at the end of it, at the end of the talk that we're going to have here, I'm going to reveal something that is starting right here, right tonight, that nobody knows about. You are right now on the cutting edge, on the bleeding edge. You're going to witness something later that takes its course from right here, right tonight, and that, with a little bit of luck, changes our country for the better. That's at least what I want to achieve. Yeah? Talk to me later about it. So, the first angel, the first of my guests who I want to welcome is Daniel Buligin. Daniel, please join me on stage.
Here comes the sun.
Here comes the sun, right?
Here comes
Sitzt
the
aus.
sun.
The second dude, Oliver Merkel. And he's obviously, like the experienced guy. He's the man with the money.
Here comes the sun. I say.
Ja, ich hätte jetzt gesagt, setz dich dahin, damit ich... Ja. So, Daniel and Oliver, I'm going to sit down with them now, but later, like when, the big announcement, I'm going to get up again. We've prepared a few questions.
I need to interrupt here.
Oh,
in
already?
a short second. Yes, because first of all, I'm allowed to do this. This is my event, so I can interrupt the...
This is Jem. Do you know Jem? Yeah.
So
let's
these are...
Let's see it from Jem. He's like the local guy. He's hosting this entire thing.
I can do it. So, but what I thought is when angels are coming together, and you should have something also to celebrate. So I bought my personal favorite whiskey for you guys. With the fire in the back, you guys should have a drink together.
Need help?
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Lass dich nicht lumpen. Oh Gott, der dreifache Whisky.
Alright, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to us, here's to everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And cheers to growth.
Cheers to growth.
Cheers to growth. Have fun, guys.
I taste notes of fruits and of peat. Yes, so I promised you that our goal here is to get people to understand the range of possibilities that being a business angel has, right? Daniel is a tech entrepreneur himself, but he's also getting engaged in other people's startups. Yes. Why on earth do you do that? Explain a little bit how you got in the industry and why founding your own stuff is not enough.
Well, first of all, it's fun. I do that as a hobby. I like it. I've been involved in it for years. And to compensate the lack of funds that I have to deploy, I want to contribute with my expertise. So I've been in publishing and online marketing for the whole of my professional career. And when talking to startups, I first just want to help them. I want to be exposed to more ideas, to more founders, to see what's out there and also what I can learn from them. And also just to share my experience with them so they don't make the same mistakes what I did.
Can you tell us what the typical engagement of yours with other companies looks like? Do you have a portfolio? Do you get engaged in which way?
So as of now, I'm just starting up with my angel investment activities. I didn't have the big exits yet. But for now, it's about getting exposed to startups who need my help. I'm actively trying to reach out and see how can I contribute to the new venture, how can I help them grow in any way that I can. And it's usually in a sense, in a way of first meeting teams at events like this, for example, and then just continually working with them month over month to see what their progress is.
All right. Oliver, you are obviously cut from a different wood. I already said that you've been in this as a professional, as an angel for some years. Who are you and why are you doing what you do?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for the invitation tonight. I do invest in startups. I have been investing in startups for 10 years or so, and that was more a coincidence rather than a plan that I had. I left one company, and when I left, they said, what do you do? What do you want to do with your retirement money? Do you want to have it when you're 65, or do you want to have it cash now? And I said, I don't know if I ever be 65, give me the money. Then I sat on a pile of money and I thought, okay, what do I do with it? How do I invest? And at the same time, a couple of friends came up with this crazy idea in 2010, let's sell perfume over the internet. at 2010, right? So Amazon was around for 15 years already, and a couple of startups had already tried to do that. And then I said, that sounds like a good idea, maybe I can contribute a bit. In my day job, I'm a partner at Bain & Company, and I'm responsible for our retail business, so I had some experience that I can contribute. So I gave the guys a bit of money and hopefully a lot of good advice, and was a co-founder of Flaconi. And a couple of years later, we sold that to ProSieben. And since then, I've been continuously investing in interesting startup companies. And over time, focus has changed, right? At the beginning, it was very close to what I've been doing in my day job. So helping big retail companies to survive the digital transformation, digital revolution. So a lot of e-commerce. And nowadays, it's more platform business, software as a services businesses.
All right, very interesting. I made a few strong statements when I came on stage. Yeah, like I said that being a business angel, or the fact, or like more people should become business angels because this is one of the cornerstones of the digital business. And we had a little bit of a talk before we came up on stage here. There is a bit of a controversy. Yeah, is being a business angel? I mean, I think it's necessary in a larger sense, but it is also a good idea for individuals to get into the nitty-gritty, risk their own money and support startups, which are obviously a very fledgling business. And I know that we have different opinions about that. Oliver, what's your opinion? Is that right, partly right, not right at all?
Yeah. So it is partly right. So if you have a couple of savings and you think that if you've heard of all the mega exits then you think it's a good idea to invest your hard-earned money into a startup, then probably this is not a good idea. Investing in startup is a high-risk asset class, right? So you always have to just assume the minute you give the money to the startups, it's gone, right? Just write it off mentally. If you're not able to do that, and if you need the money in a couple of years, then just don't do it. Invest in stocks, right? So they are much more fluid and you can get the money out any given time. Or if you're more a security seeker, buy an apartment. Investing in startup requires a couple of other things, right? So if you think about doing that, find a spot where you really know find a space where you really know your deal, right? So in my case, it was e-commerce because I've been given in my day job advice to a lot of people in e-commerce. So I knew a lot about this field. So I really could give advice to the founders. I could influence the fate of this company, right? But at the same time, if you give the money to a startup company, to some founders, firstly, you need to really trust the founders, right? And secondly, you need to have something to contribute. Thirdly, you won't get the money back for a couple of years, right? So if it all goes well, then it still takes 6 to 8 years until you see your money back, right? In my case, the way how I select companies is I try to make the word very simple. I have a little metrics and say, is it an idea a business that I understand? Yes, no. Is it people that I know? Yes, no. And ideally, it's in the upper right quadrant, people that I know very well and that I trust in a business that I really know well. What I never do is people I don't know in the business that I don't understand. That's why I've never invested in any Bitcoin business so far.
What do you think? Like this whole angel thing, is that like a narcissism trip of people like me and Oliver, arguably? Is there some meaning to it? Why are you engaging in this loss-making industry at all?
Yeah, well, for me it's a little bit different. Well, I couldn't agree more with you that it is a risky asset class, and you shouldn't be investing in startups if you're not ready to lose all the money that you have. However, when investing in startups, I think you're also betting on yourself a little bit, on your own ability to identify not only the product that will hopefully get you the exit in with like 6 to 8 years, hopefully, but also to bet on the right team. Because in the end, especially in the early stage when we're talking like pre-seed, friends and family, extended family rounds, the products change. We all know that. But the teams, they stay as a core. And for me, when I'm looking at potential investments, I'm looking at, is the idea big enough to attract good people? And are the founders able to attract these people to basically replicate themselves? Because in the end, a really good team can save a problem, right? They can solve, like even if the product is subpar, they can fix it. But even if it's a great product, a mediocre team will just destroy everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Now, as we sit here, the three of us, I guess we're kind of privileged because we're already there. Yeah, like I claimed that we need a lot more business angels to make this whole thing happen, to produce more success stories, to get the topic of entrepreneurship rooted in society, not through like the newspapers and the products that we buy, but by having skin in the game, our own money, right? But many people out there, and you saw the numbers, only 1% do engage of all people with money. Most of them outside will ask like, so if I want to start tomorrow, how do I get started at all? You started 10 years ago, you started a few years ago, but in hindsight, what is the best way for someone who doesn't necessarily have $1 million, yeah? Like business angel investments start at 5,000 euros and maybe investing your own time. How do you get that started? How will that not end in a catastrophe? What's the first steps that you should take if this actually interests you? And as an added difficulty, imagine you don't live in Berlin, but in Erlangen.
Well,
how do you get started?
Come to Berlin first.
Daniel, how do you get started?
I think that it's very important to get in front of the founders themselves, whether it's through crowdfunding platforms that we've also discussed prior to this conversation, that we also have conflicting opinions about, but also just, I mean, startups are represented everywhere you go, from online to offline, and if you can get close to the founders somehow, then you are one step closer to basically investing in them, to getting to know them. But then as for the actual process of investing, it is probably simpler than the average person would understand it to be. Right?
What's your advice?
I think it's always a good starting point would be an area where you really know something, right? So a space where you have let me call it an unfair competitive advantage because you have insights into an industry, for example. That's also what I'm looking for in startup founders, right? So I have a startup that's called Lilydoo. They send diapers as a direct-to-consumer business. That they send diapers. They have captured within 3 years 4% of the German market for diapers. The reason why they are so successful is they had an unfair competitive advantage, and that was both of the founders worked at Procter & Gamble, and one of them was the product manager for Pampers. And what he found out is when they have high demand, they source out the production to private label companies. And then the insight was, hey, then the recipe for Pampers is probably not as secret as the Coca-Cola recipe. So he went to this private label manufacturer and said, can you do me a diaper that's even better than Pampers? And he said, okay, what else do you want to add? And he said, no, I don't want to add something. I want to leave things out. Everything that's not good for a baby. And if you have these kind of insights, then try to go to forums like this where you meet people, where you match ideas, a space where you really know your thing, with founders that have a passion, that have something where you say, okay, this idea could really change the world a bit, right? And changing the world doesn't mean it needs to be the next billion-dollar company. It can also be something in the community, right? So because as a startup, I don't need to invest in billion-dollar companies. I anyhow believe that the German VCs play an American game, that they're all betting on the next unicorn. And there are only 10 unicorns in Germany, right? So maybe it's also good, and as a business angel you can do that. Just bet on a good business, right? So it doesn't need to be $1 billion, it could also be 10 million at one point, right? So, or you don't sell it at all, it just produces nice returns and you get your money back by dividends, right?
Absolutely. As probably most of you know, and that's how I also selected my guest, I mean, there's a difference between professional investors that do nothing but investing and managing their portfolio, and regular dudes, or quite regular dudes like Daniel, Oliver, and myself, who have other things to do and then also invest in startups, become engaged in startups. And one of the big questions, I guess, is how do you fit that into your life? If you have, like you, yeah, like as an executive in a high flyer consulting company, you probably already have a 100-hour workday, and you told me that you have 3 kids. Yeah, like the latest one only arrived last week, last Friday. So like with a family, a high-flying career, in your case, with a recently established startup that's now struggling to make like the big hit, how do you on earth still be useful and engage with startups that you support with your own money? How do you design your life around that? Daniel?
I do things like this. Like I try to fill my evenings with talking to companies, talking to founders. That's one. But then you have the weekend still. You have the mornings, especially the mornings. If you basically you make time, like similar probably what your answer will be like. Just making time.
I think you're designing corners like the end of the day, beginning of the day, events that either come or go, but you don't have something like an overlaying grid that says, well, you're looking at 3 or 4 pitch decks a week.
For now, not.
And then,
because I'm in a very volatile environment myself. So again, as Christoph said, I'm with a startup right now, and we are also going through the same things that all the other founders are going through. So that's why it's hard for me to plan even my own time, even like 3-4 days ahead.
I think in the end, it's all about prioritization. If something is important to you, then you will find time. I mean, how many of you have watched Game of Thrones, right? So all the seasons. Game of Thrones, hands up.
Watch Game of Thrones.
See, a lot of people in the room.
And
so
the rest are
you're
too lazy to show up.
Exactly. So you make time for the things that are important to you. And what I always tell my teams, if this is not fun, what we're doing here together, then I rather spend my time. I'm spending more time with you guys than with my wife. So if this is not fun and we really work on changing the world, then I rather go home, right, and have a nice dinner. So I'm here tonight because I really believe that the mission that you are on, Christoph, is an important one, and that's why we make the time, right?
True. Now, something that I'm always telling people, why it's worth becoming engaged with startups, even if you're not a founder yourself, is because there's a direct profit that you're getting from the engagement as such. Working with startups, helping founders, becoming involved in startups is something that will reflect on the rest of your business life. It will make you a better manager, it will make you a better consultant, it will make you a better product manager, it will just extremely improve your chances on the regular job market. That's at least my thesis. That's how it has worked for me, because I'm always saying, right now in Germany, there's no skill more valuable than being an entrepreneur or having entrepreneurial experience. No matter what you do, if you can claim that you've been there, done that, you have an advantage, and you can quite simply demand a whole different salary, because there's only so few people around. Is that true? Have you seen like your experience in working with startups reflect positive on your outcomes as a founder yourself, as a manager yourself, in dealing with others? And if yes, how?
You get exposed to so many different ideas. You get exposed to so many different mistakes and so many also good examples from time to time, that you are just learning from such a massive information that you, in the regular corporate environment, you probably wouldn't have the speed or the agility of just information coming your way. You're trying to learn from other people's experiences and try to put them in your own context, of course. That's like also one of the very selfish reasons why I'm talking to so many startups.
Yeah, and then the other, I mean, one of the major reasons why people do this is to make money, right? So because I believe that I understand that as asset class better, that I have access to better deals, or that I can get earlier into good deals. Hence, my returns are higher and I can beat the average market, right? So if you compare it to property, to the stock market, to property, even private equity / VCs, then good business angels have they beat the market by far, right? So they have multiples that are that even the VCs dream of, right? So even the top quartile of the VCs. Because if you look at the numbers, right? So average VC globally is 1.8 return, right? So 1.8x. Private equity average 2.2, 2.3, then depending, right? So if you look at the top quartile, then they are a bit higher. But actually there it's very hard to get in, right? So because Andreessen Horowitz unfortunately doesn't need our money. Plus the checks that you have to write are a bit, need to be a bit bigger. So business angels, if you really actively do it, right? So and manage this as a portfolio and take and participate and really help them drive the business can yield exceptional returns.
Can you give us a few more details on that? Because we talked previously, and I know for a fact that Oliver actually made some exits. So he's not only talking about how beautiful it is to engage and work with these creative young people, it's actually that the whole financial side of this has worked for him. What was a typical positive outcome for you? What was the time, the money involved? How did you get in? How much did you invest initially? How turned it out? Did it turn out at the end?
Yeah, let me give you two examples. One that I've mentioned earlier, Flaconi, right? So I was the founding investor, one of the 4 guys going to the notary and starting the company. I invested 30,000 euros, which gave me at that time 5%, so it's quite a good valuation. And we sold the company a couple of years later back to the TV network Pro7 Sat.1 because firstly the offer on the table was good, but at the same time the 2 founders said, we've done this now for 7 years, we lived on minimum wage, this is a good deal, we want to take it, right? So we want to have the independence, we don't want to continue to live as the poor founders and hope for a better exit at one point, we want to take the deal. And then we had a lot of discussion because I was of the opinion, no, let us run with it, right? So we grow by 50% every year, and it's this year they make 200 million in revenue, so it's really a good business, right? So the founders decided, let's go for it, and we sold it. Another example, what you have is
how much as a multiple did you get out after how many years?
Yeah, it was above 10x. I cannot tell you exactly because we signed NDAs, but it was a double-digit return after 7 years, right? So, but I also made the mistakes, so you learn a lot when you do this, right? So this was one of the first investments that I made where it was very close. So I did the initial seed investment, but I did not participate in the following rounds, which is stupid, right? Because once you have identified a winner, you double down, right? So you try to avoid dilution. But at that time, I was had the naive idea it's much better to spread the risk and invest in a couple of other startups. The other part that often happens is from time to time, once the big guys come in, once the VCs come in, that they clean up the cap table and just give you the opportunities for secondaries, right? And my opinion there
What is a secondary?
A secondary is when a new investor comes in and buys the shares from the minority shareholders, right? So from the early investors, just to clean up the cap table and to get a majority or get a bigger share in the company. And my opinion on secondaries is no one got ever poor by accepting secondaries, and paper money evaluations are good, but money in the bank is even better. So I think also as an objective, the objective of a business angel is to help people start a company, make them successful, and once there's then traction, it's also what else can you do? Because at one point the company is so big, the growth capital required is much, much bigger, so that your job is done.
Now, what I'm interested in, looking forward, how do you see this engagement of yours going? How do you see it changing life? Where do you see it taking you? I mean, you are in your early 40s, so for you it's probably, you can only buy so many yachts, you can only buy so many Lamborghinis, yeah? So what's your, do you think in terms of a career as a business angel? Is it about growing the money that you have or growing the portfolio? And Daniel, of course, you are in your late 20s. For you, the whole thing is just starting out. Is this something that you're going to build your life around, eventually getting lucky? Or is it more like an engagement that you're learning from? How do you see your role as a business angel developing in the future?
Well, ideally, I will have the means to continue doing what I'm doing because, again, as I said before, it's fun. I love the early stage. I like the rush of starting something new, and I want to be there to basically see this journey, see the founders grow in the very early stages. And I'm basically buying my way into that experience to be closer to the team, to be in there. Yeah. So I hope that I will continue doing that for a long time still. Yeah.
Same here. I would, if I can, I would like to continue this for eternity, right? Because
Why?
Because it's really, so firstly, we talked about the exceptional returns that it can yield. But more importantly even is really the experience and the learnings that you get out of it, right? So really being very close to, and now people could say, yeah, but why don't you start a company your own? If you're so good in identifying ideas, right? Why don't you do it yourself? Yeah, because probably I'm too risk averse, right? So as you said, I have 3 kids now, right? I have rent to pay, so maybe it's not. And early 40s sound bad if you say it.
What?
So I just turned 43, right? So I still feel young, but maybe I'm not that age where if it doesn't work, I just start the next one, right? So I would like to continue this and really. It's a bit like the experience that you build. You really go down the up the experience curve, and you really are much better in giving advice because you have seen it. Now we've worked with every VC under the sun. I can tell you exactly what the strengths and the weaknesses are of the bigger VCs. I can help you to avoid a couple of mistakes. So show you exactly, okay, if you do this, then this will happen because I've seen the movie a couple of times before. So my advice is much better now. So I hope that the founders that I'm so lucky working with are appreciating the advice as well, right? So, and then over time it becomes more interesting because you can explore new things. Now I'm very big on apps. I just invested in a dog companion app. Sounds a bit crazy, but these guys have managed with 50,000 euros to get more than 1 million downloads in 3 months, right? So they hit the nerve somehow, right? So, and we're trying to make the biggest app in the world, the dog companion app in the world. So
yes.
It's very interesting, you learn a lot, so I can only recommend getting involved. I have now probably 22, 23 portfolio companies at the moment. Don't do a lot, just start with one, right? So find, if you have a founding team that you like, an idea that you like, try to support them, right? So, and if you have a bit of money to throw in, even better. Otherwise, just stay close to that because you learn so much.
And now we come to the great revelation of the evening, because I promised you there would be a revelation. You've heard, or like I stated, an initial problem. Many people who could be engaged but who are not. We've now heard like the road that this can take you, like becoming engaged. Yeah, like I hope, like me, you noticed that this guy, who is a die-hard consultant, really became enthusiastic, excited. He's smiling, yeah, an ice-cold, probably, consultant is becoming excited when he's talking about his engagement with startups, with founders. That's how powerful it is, yeah. And someone who's just starting out in his own career says that he wants to continue supporting other companies for the rest of his life, yeah. So this is what I want to tackle. This is how I want to make a change in Germany. This is what I'm starting right here now, tonight. It's called Angels of Deutschland, and Angels of Deutschland for the next 12 months is a show that allows everyone in this room and in Germany to follow startup investments in real time while they're operated in full transparency. And this Angels of Deutschland thing, who is the guy who's operating it? Who's the guy who's investing the money for everyone to learn how it's done? Well, that's myself. Yes. Me personally, I'm going to invest into 3 startups over the course of the next 12 months, 3 times 30,000 euros into 3 teams, and I'm going to let you guys know everything about it. You are going to learn about the pitches. You are going to see the deal terms and the contracts. You're going to learn about the conflicts. You're going to learn about the things that go wrong and that go right. And you're going to do that in a bi-weekly podcast where like all the founders, all the people that I'm talking to will get a voice. You will get to read about it and get all the documents and everything that has so far been a secret in a blog. And every 2 months, we're going to hold a talk show where you're all invited to meet all the people involved. 3 times 30,000 euros of my own money. Nobody is supporting me with that. No government, no big corporations, no telecom. It's my own money that I got from a secondary exit, as Oliver just described it. I have already made my peace with losing it. I want to move the needle. I want to find 3 great teams, but more than anything else, I want to tell all of you, everyone in Germany, how it is. Yeah? And I don't want to do that on a theoretical level. I want to do it I'm not a millionaire with the little money that I have, so that you can all profit from it and decide if this is for you. And it's going to be live, right? Every 2 weeks I'm going to tell you what's happened in the past 2 weeks, what teams I found, what discussions we had, what deals we made or didn't make. And all you need to do is tune in to www.angelsofdeutschland.de. Come out to the talk show if you're interested. Listen to the podcast if you're interested. Let me know if this is anything that you might be interested in, if this is for you, if this is for your friends. My goal is that even in places like Erlangen, Nuremberg, Wiesbaden, Fürth, Rosenheim, in the far reaches of our country, that this is not a Berlin phenomenon anymore, that this is not about the pros anymore, about the people with money in the know who are somehow involved in the startup scene. I firmly believe that our chance as a country, as a nation, to move ahead with the digital change, to profit from it, is not by looking at other people and let it happen to us. Digital change, startup, is nothing that others do for you. It's an opportunity for everyone in this room and for everyone in Germany to get engaged with, as a founder, as a supporter, or as an investor. And if that is for you, www.angelsofdeutschland.de. Right now, tonight, it starts. I'm kind of scared, but I'm also looking very much forward to it. So you're all invited. I hope to see you again. Thanks to my guests. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.